Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports, here for another daily news video. And yeah, another very interesting bunch of articles that we've got here for you today. Once again, off the bat, just starting with our title article here today. James Vowles says that they want Williams in the car next year. We want him in the car next year, Vowles says. Williams wants Sargeant to succeed at the team. James Vowles has backed Logan Sargeant as the Williams team principal insists they want the American driver in the car next season, while admitting that some of his struggles this year are their fault. Sargeant made the step from Formula 2 to Formula 1 this year with Williams, but has so far struggled, as he is the only full-time driver on the grid yet to score a point, with all of Williams' 21 points this year coming from Alex Albon. Speaking on Williams' website following the Japanese Grand Prix, where Sargeant crashed out in qualifying and retired from the race with damage after colliding with Valtteri Bottas' Alfa Romeo, Vowles gave his view on Sargeant's future. Logan has very clear targets of what he has to hit before the end of the season, and we are working with him continuously, Vowles said. And that's the important point. We are working with him. We want him to succeed, and we want him in the car next season. This is very much on us as well. We have taken some straights from Formula 2 we have taken someone straight from Formula 2 without any significant testing, put him in a day and a half in Bahrain in this car, and then wished him well on this season. That has been awfully challenging for rookies. Full stop. There were some very positive signs to take out. First and foremost, Logan is not on the same aerodynamic specific as Alex was. We have updates that are on Alex's car that are not on Logan's, due to the amount of attrition we have this year. So often, when you see a performance offset, it is not quite what it may seem on the timing pages. Furthermore to that, if you look at the case of Suzuka, he did a build-up across the weekend. As he went into FP3, he did a time that matched Alex. Vowles continued. And as we go into qualifying, until the accident, he was overlaying, line on line, within a tenth of Alex's performances, at one of the trickiest circuits on the season. So the progress is certainly there, in certain forms, but very clearly being marred by a number of other issues and accidents have appeared as well. We will continue to work with Logan and invest in him, as we want him to succeed as a result of the journey he is on. He is on a journey with us as Williams. We have a young driver program that we will continue to invest in, and the only point where we all come to the conclusion that we have reached the end of the road will we make any decisions. But we are nowhere near that yet. Sargeant's crash in qualifying saw him start the race from the pit lane and with a 10-second penalty, after the stewards believed that Williams had technically built a third car, with Vowles also giving his view on the matter. There was a very short period of time to rebuild the car between the accident and the race, said Vowles. The car has got to go effectively undercovers, and everyone has to go home. In the morning, as a team, we made a list of what work to do, and everyone came really early, around 6 a.m. or so. We are aware of the regulations, and it was simply a mistake, ultimately because as a group, we were very keen to make sure we hit the timeline that was required. As a result of that, there were simply 2 items put on the car that shouldn't have been put on the car at that time of day. It has to be done 5 hours before the race. It was a little bit early. It's fair as in as much of that regulation is incredibly clear in what it says. And that is on us, not on the mechanics. The mechanics were simply following protocol. So very interesting to see that Williams and James Vowles are still backing Logan Sargeant for 2024, even though he has cost them quite a lot of money in crashes this season. Of course, he is a rookie. We expect them to make mistakes, and we understand that they're going to make mistakes. But yeah, overall, very happy to see that Williams are still backing Logan Sargeant. I think it would be quite tough on him to oust him after a single season in Formula 1 as a rookie. It's really difficult, as James Vowles says, to come into Formula 1 as a rookie in 1 year, try and prove yourself. Fortunately, Oscar Piastri's been given a competitive car. Well, Logan Sargeant's also been given a competitive car, but I think Oscar Piastri just has that hunger a little bit more, as well as I think when comparing Piastri and Logan Sargeant, Piastri certainly has more talent. than Logan Sargeant at the moment from what we've been able to see. Maybe Sargeant just needs a little bit more time to get more confidence. We've seen the likes of certain drivers needing a year or two or three to get confidence in a car. I look back to Mick Schumacher in Formula 2, Formula 3. It would take him a season to get comfortable in that formula, and then he would really hit the ground running. And the second season, he would be able to win championships. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens if Williams do decide to retain Logan Sargeant for next season. And if they don't, there is a lot of drivers waiting in the wings to take that seat. And if you want to know about all of those drivers waiting in the wings, do be sure to go and check my video that I have put up on this channel, talking about the 6 drivers in contention for that Williams seat next year. I see we have TC there in the comment section saying nice of Williams to renew his contract. They haven't renewed his contract as of yet, TC. They are saying that they want to keep him, but I think he has to be able to meet their... they said they have expectations or goals for him to meet before the end of the season, and I think that is what they want him to succeed. I'm just looking back in this article for where they said that, because I remember they definitely... Yeah, Logan has very clear targets of what he has to hit before the end of the season, said James Vowles. So clearly they have certain goals that they want him to hit. Maybe he has to get some points before the end of the season to be able to have his contract renewed. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's really interesting. I mean, it's difficult for the rookie of Sargeant, but interesting for all of us. Yeah, do be sure to go and vote in that poll as well. It's asking here at the moment, do you think Formula 1 has become boring amid Verstappen's dominance? That will link back to one of our articles that we have a little bit later. Do be sure to stick around for that. As we move on to another one, rejected Formula 1 team claims Andretti accepted, well, Andretti Formula 1 team have been accepted by the FIA. Rodin Cars was just one of a handful of potential teams hoping to join Formula 1 with its existing partnership with junior racing squad Carlin. Rodin Cars has revealed it has seen its Formula 1 entry bid rejected by the FIA and believes Andretti will be the only successful applicant. Formula 1's governing body opened up a process for interested parties to lodge applications to join the grid in January, with a number of responses being received. These included what is known as Andretti Cadillac Racing, High-Tech Grand Prix, Rodin Carlin, ASEAN startup LKY Sons, and the Craig Pollock-backed Formula Equal. The FIA have been studying the applications and their viability to be granted acceptance, although no formal decisions have been communicated. Any team that is accepted by the FIA is not guaranteed a slot on the grid, as commercial and financial terms would still need to be agreed with the commercial rights holders, which is Formula 1 itself, owned by Liberty Media. In a statement confirming the team's rejection, Rodin founder David Dicker said, "We wish to emphasize that our objective here is not to criticize the FIA or seek a reconsideration of its decision," said a statement. We fully respect and accept that outcome. Our sole purpose is to release information we consider in the public interest to inform the Formula 1 community. Rodin also highlighted the fact that through the partnership with Carlin, a pathway from the junior formulas right up to Formula 1 was possible, but the FIA has seemingly decided that the project did not meet the strict criteria placed on the entry process. But hinting at a pass for Andretti, the statement concluded, "We appreciate the opportunity to have participated in the FIA process and extend our best wishes to Andretti for their successful bid." Rodin Cars remains committed to pushing the boundaries of motorsport, and we will continue to pursue excellence in the world of racing. Very, very interesting to see that Rodin was rejected from their application to join the Formula 1 grid, I think from 2026 onwards, if I'm not mistaken. But also very interesting to see that it's a possibility that Andretti Cadillac Motor Racing or Motorsports have been accepted as that new FIA proposed team to Formula 1. But of course, Formula 1 management and the owners, Liberty Media, still have to sign off on that and agree to a commercial agreement, or a new Concord agreement as well would have to be decided between all of the teams, because they all have a certain cut of the winning pot at the end of the season. Of course, you also get money when you win a championship, but you also have I remember when the Concord Agreement first came out, you got signing bonuses for being some of the first teams. Ferrari as well got a massive signing bonus because they were a heritage team in Formula One, because they're one of the founding teams of the sport. So it's going to be very interesting, but because of course the Formula One teams don't want the sport to be diluted. They don't want that pot of money that they receive every year to go down. And that's why they don't really want a new team to be brought into Formula One. But of course, as fans and supporters, we'd love to see more teams being brought onto the Formula One grid. But we'll have to wait and see. Just carrying on with this article, it also goes on to explain that the team which had planned to build carrying on with the Rodin team, the team which had planned to build and construct its cars in New Zealand, an outlier with the current 10 teams who all have bases in Europe, suggested that talks with Ferrari had been about a potential power unit package, although it is unclear how far negotiations had advanced. Rodin also had announced that it was committed to reserving one seat for a female driver, and directly name-checked Jamie Chadwick. The three-time W Series champion and current Indy NXT driver was a prime candidate for the seat, the team said, and that if she was available, they would have no hesitation in putting her in a seat. That would have been really, really exciting to get another female Formula One driver in the sport, but unfortunately it won't happen with Rodin and Carlin. Disappointing that they had their application rejected, because that would have been a great avenue for young drivers to get into the sport, because Rodin does have a bunch of their cars in the junior formulas, and that could have been a direct pathway for junior drivers to get into Formula One. But unfortunate that it will not happen. Hopefully we will see that Andretti Cadillac team progressing into Formula One. That would be phenomenal, I think. And as much as people are saying they don't necessarily want the sport to be diluted, and they want, if another team should be brought into the sport, they have to have some sort of draw card as to why they should be in the sport. And I think what is bigger than Andretti Cadillac? I mean, Cadillac is a major company in the US. It's General Motors, which is of course a huge motor company in the United States. And I don't understand why we wouldn't want to get major investors like that into the sport of Formula One. Moving away from this article though, we're moving on to another one saying Horner has warned that there is no guarantee of future Lawson drive. The New Zealander will remain as a reserve driver next year despite an impressive start to life in Formula One. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has warned though that there is no guarantee that Liam Lawson will be on the grid come 2025. The New Zealander has been impressive since making his debut at the Dutch Grand Prix, already securing points with a top 10 finish at the Singapore Grand Prix. Lawson, who is standing in for the injured Daniel Ricciardo, will remain as a reserve driver for both Red Bull and AlphaTauri next season, with the latter having opted to retain the Australian driver as well as Yuki Tsunoda, whilst the championship-winning constructor will keep Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. This is despite suggestions that Liam Lawson would shoehorn his way into a drive next year, with his level of performance since jumping in the car since Zandvoort. Reports have suggested, though, that Lawson has been given a promise that his reserve duties next season will be backed up by a full-time drive the year after, but Christian Horner has now come out and said that there is no guarantee of anything in life. He's done a great job, and he has really impressed us. He's done exactly what we could have asked for in terms of grabbing the opportunity in Daniel's absence to show his capabilities as well. That's turned some heads for sure, and it's done him a lot of good. We'll keep developing him when he goes back into that test and reserve role, and he'll be a candidate certainly for 2025. I certainly believe that Liam Lawson is going to be another interesting driver in the driver market, because he's coming with that opportunity in the season to replace Daniel Ricciardo, and as Christian Horner said, he's really hit the ground running and proven his worth in Formula One and shown his talents. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's really a good candidate for that Williams seat if Logan Sargeant gets ousted. It's looking unlikely. But as well, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what Christian Horner decides to do. Unfortunately, that's ultimately who Liam Lawson's fate lies in. It's either in Christian Horner's hands or in Helmut Marko's hands. So It's difficult for the young junior driver, but he's certainly put in a brilliant performance and done the best that he can to kind of turn those heads and make sure that those managers and the management in Red Bull kind of have gone, oh, we should actually give him a seat, because he's been outperforming Yuki Tsunoda with only 3 races under his belt, and Yuki Tsunoda's been in the seat now for 3 years. So I think it's certainly proven his worth in Formula 1 and possibly put a lot of pressure now on Yuki Tsunoda. Moving away, though, from the Red Bulls and the AlphaTauris, moving on to Mercedes, and why Mercedes hopes that Qatar will buck their spirit, why Mercedes hopes Qatar will buck the sprint trend. The Qatar Grand Prix will be the 4th sprint race of the 2023 season, with 6 planned in total. Mercedes, though, believes that Qatar's Lusail circuit is a better prospect to host a Formula 1 sprint race after the challenges of Baku and the Red Bull Ring. Formula 1 is set for 6 sprint races in 2023, with Azerbaijan, Austria, Belgium, Qatar, the United States, and Brazil to host different sprint races, with the return of Qatar being the first of 3 in the final 6 Grand Prix weekends. The first ever sprint race was held in Baku in April. The first ever street sprint race was held in Baku in April, leading to a number of challenges across the field with getting to grips at a street track with just an hour of practice before cars enter parc fermé conditions before qualifying. While the second event was in Austria, which is a track Mercedes has struggled at in recent years. Mercedes won the inaugural Qatar Grand Prix in 2021 through Lewis Hamilton, before the race dropped off the calendar for 2022, owing to the FIFA World Cup, but has rejoined the calendar on a long-term deal with trackside engineering director Andrew Shovlin optimistic that Lusail will provide an easier challenge for them. You limit in what you can do on the approach to the weekend because you've got 1 hour to do the work of 3 hours, Shovlin told media, of course speaking about the format when you do have a sprint race, because you have 1 practice session, then sprint qualifying, and then a normal qualifying. Even with 3 hours of practice, you're on track for the vast majority of it. We will have the drivers in the simulator and be preparing for Qatar, which as a circuit is probably a bit easier as somewhere like Baku, which was a particularly difficult one to have a sprint race at. If you look at tracks like Austria, we've not been great in Austria for years, so that wouldn't be our first choice for a sprint race at all. But we will do our normal preparation, getting the drivers in the sim, and we've learned quite a bit about the car since last one. And hopefully we can arrive with a better setup and go from that. So they're certainly looking a little bit optimistic for this race weekend. I certainly hope that they'll be able to do a lot better and challenge up the front a little bit more. They had some good pace out in Japan, but maybe a little bit slower than the Ferraris and a bit slower than what we expected off the back of the Singapore Grand Prix, where they were really challenging for that race win near the end. But unfortunately, fortunately for Carlos Sainz, he used some brilliant tactics, and fortunately for us as viewers, because it was a fantastic race to spectate. Mark's Box, they're just saying, Sargeant staying at Williams, what do they want? Expenses to write off against tax? It certainly has been a large amount of money that they spent on him this year, being the one driver, he is at the top of the Destructors Championship this year, not the Constructors Championship. I think his total of damages have gone up to about $2.4 million already. So it's a lot of money that he's cost the Williams team, but it happens as a rookie, and we expected it to happen. Carlos Sainz has admitted at laughing in the car at Mercedes tactics. Carlos Sainz Jr. has admitted that he laughed at the Mercedes tactics at the Japanese Grand Prix from his own cockpit. The Spaniard was amused by seeing the tactic he used the previous weekend in Singapore, giving the driver directly behind him DRS to keep a buffer between himself and the faster Mercedes driver, being used against him by Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. The DRS advantage wasn't enough to keep Russell on slower tyres clear of the Ferrari, with Sainz easing past the Brit into 6th place, where he finished the race. I was laughing in the car, he said, because I saw Lewis waiting on 130R. He later admitted, I was clear that if I didn't attack George in the chicane, it would have been impossible to overtake them. I opened the DRS, and with the slipstream, I passed him on the straight. It was fun, and it almost cost me a position on my own trick. While the Ferrari's results of Portland 6 in Suzuka were a step back from Sainz's shock win in Singapore, he insisted that the prancing horses actually had good pace over the course of the weekend, and could have performed better, but for a disappointing pit stop. "We had more rhythm than the results showed," he said. "I had a good start, we were fast in the first stint, and I took care of my tyres. But when you're behind on track, it is always difficult, because at Suzuka, it is really difficult to overtake. We returned to normal. As soon as I got into the race, I understood the car well. The last pit stop cost us more time, but it is what it is." Ferrari sit just 20 points behind the Mercedes for the remainder of the season in the Constructors' Championship, with vital prize money up for grabs at the end of the season if they can snatch that second place away from the Mercedes. They'll certainly be wanting to do that before the end of the season. They are so close. After being fourth at one stage in the Constructors' Championship, they're now third, challenging for second. It's certainly not what we expected them to be doing. As TC says, big fan of Sainz. He has humour and has improved as a driver this year. He certainly has become a lot more consistent as well, and that's helped the Ferraris to be able to jump up and have a resurgence of pace and a resurgence of point scoring in the second half of the season. And we'll have to wait and see what time has for us to tell if they'll be able to snatch that second place away from the Mercedes at the end of the season. It would have been a phenomenal second half of the season because of the fact that second place in the Constructors' Championship has changed hands already now 2 times between Aston Martin and Mercedes, and it could change the third hand to Ferrari. That would be really, really interesting. As Orville Clisby also says, his father is a legend in rallying. Of course, Carlos Sainz Sr. is certainly an absolute legend in the art of rallying and Dakar. He also, of course, has raced with Audi, which are why there are so many rumors going around that Carlos Sainz Jr., of course, in Formula 1, could go to Audi once they join the sports in 2026. Certainly waiting to see any little news on that for the future. But moving on now, Aston Martin have come out and posted a $53 million loss for the 2022 Formula 1 season. The Aston Martin Formula 1 team has declared a loss of $53 million. The Aston Martin team has declared a loss of $53 million for the 2022 season, an increase of almost $9 million on the deficit accrued the previous year. The team made a bigger loss despite upping its turnover from sponsorship and prize money by over $32 million, with the numbers reflecting an overall increase in costs in the first year of the new regulations. Following a reorganisation, the team now operates under the banner of AMR GP Limited, which is a subsidiary of AMR GP Holdings Limited. Although the headline numbers across the two entities are in effect the same, figures released to the public domain this week show that AMR GP generated turnover in 2022 of $188.7 million, up from $150.438 million in 2021. The overall cost of sales, a measure of what the team actually spent to go racing, rose to $152 million from $107 million. With administrative expenses and other income such as government grants taken into account, that resulted in a loss for 2022 of $52.9 million, compared with $43.3 million in 2021. Overall staff costs for the group were listed as $54.9 million, an increase of around 10% on the previous year. The group declared an overall headcount of 504 people, with 81 in administration and 423 employed in a design, production, and technical role, up from 401 in 2021, reflecting the team's ongoing expansion. In a reference to the substantial investments in the new facilities at Silverstone, the company noted that as of December 31st, 2021, the group was committed to capital expenditure of $64.9 million, relating to the development of the Aston Martin Formula 1 campus. The marketing contribution for the Formula 1 team from the Aston Martin Lagonda Road Car Company for 2022 is listed at £19.2 million, which was down by £844,000 on the previous year. One intriguing detail is that in 2022, the team paid Falcon Racing Services Inc. $1.8 million for the provision of racing services of Lance Stroll, an amount that was actually $225,000 less than in 2021. Falcon in turn provided $1.1 million in sponsorship income in 2021. Or in 2022 rather. The company also made it clear that, like other Formula One teams, it is now broadening its horizons with the recently created Aston Martin Performance Technologies division, which takes out learnings from the racetrack and applies them to real-world problems. It added that the new entity took out its first contract during the year and has a robust pipeline of opportunities as part of its future growth. Certainly very interesting to hear all of those financials from Aston Martin over the last year. Really interesting to hear that they've lost that much money. Of course, they're a team that goes racing. As Orville Clisby says, Aston Martin are linked to Hollywood. They are very interesting. They are a very interesting company. They are certainly very, very interesting and also great to have them in the sport because they are a historical name. They have been in the sport before. Of course, they fell away, I think maybe in the late 60s or so, if not the 70s. But yeah, they have been around for a while and glad to have them back in the sport, of course. But it just shows you the absolute cost of running a team in Formula One. And it's just a massive numbers game in terms of what it costs to go racing in Formula One. I would hate to know what the costs of all of their travel expenses are. I mean, shipping these cars around the world must cost a small fortune alone. Moving on, though, to another bit of data. Formula One reverses social media gains amid the lack of a title fight. Formula One has witnessed a dramatic drop in social media mentions, new followers, and reach off the back of Red Bull's total domination, a new research study has revealed. Analysis by BuzzRadar, a social intelligence company of social media patterns for the last decade, has highlighted how the 2023 campaign has triggered a dramatic U-turn in Formula One's impressive growth in recent years. In a case study published on Thursday, titled "Have We Reached the Peak in F1?", BuzzRadar's analysis suggested that the boom of 2022, boosted by the dramatic 2021 fight and new car rules, may well mark a high point of interest in Formula One for a while. Having used a combination of human analysis and AI data to look at F1 on social media over the past decade, which included analysis of 70 million fan posts, it found that the championship has suffered its first decline in interest in a while. Its data suggests that social media mentions of Formula One were down by 70.2% in the first 5 months of this year, compared to the same period in 2022. With new followers down by 46.29% and social reach down by 64%. The figures for January to May for the past 3 years are as follows. Mentions in 2021 were 3.19 million, 2022 was 6.1 million, in 2023 it is just 1.8 million. New followers in 2021, 624,000 followers. New followers in 2022, 911,000 followers. New followers in 2023 thus far, only 489,000. In 2021, the social reach was 35.6 billion. In 2022, that reach was 61.7 billion, and in 2023, that reach is once again down on only 22.1 billion. So, in that report, BuzzRadar concluded that the data comparison between 2022 and 2023 revealed significant drops in the overall mentions of Formula One, along with dismal numbers in the growth of new followers of high-profile accounts. The reach of Formula One related content across various social media platforms has also receded. In stark contrast to the steady process, the reach of Formula One related content across various social media platforms has also receded, in stark contrast to the steady progress observed yearly before. But the declining numbers are only part of the story. The social data from 2023 also offered insight into a fundamental shift in conversations about Formula One, a noticeable upswing in the use of negative adjectives associated with sport. Words like boring and annoying are now becoming high-frequency descriptors, replacing erstwhile positive words like interesting and exciting. The Buzz Radar report believes that the cause of such a drop-off is simply single-team domination, with Red Bull having won all but 2 races over the past 12 months. It believes that there is a direct correlation between the closeness of an F1 title fight and how much that entices fans to get engaged. As Formula 1 last had such a drop-off in 2018 when Lewis Hamilton roared to the title. 2016 was the most talked about season until 2021, despite all the contributory factors of the Liberty takeover, Drive to Survive, and lockdown, because Nico Rosberg and Hamilton were battling closely. It noted that the season was decided by only 5 points. Conversations stagnated between 2018 and 2020, while Hamilton dominated and grew significantly again during the 2021 season, the closest championship since 2016. Both 2016's and 2021's seasons were decided at the last race. 2022 continued to ride the wave of the close competition at the end of 2021, but now we are seeing the result of one driver dominance again in 2023. This year is now on course to continue losing conversation, and this pattern will continue until the racing becomes closer again. But while social media figures for 22 and 23 are far from ideal, the Buzz Radar report does acknowledge that Formula 1 has been hugely impressive in the way that it has grown audience figures over the past decade. Compared to other leading sports, it's amongst the best. And that is despite there being just 23 events this year. Between 2016 and 2022, Formula 1 grew its conversation levels by 80%, which was only bettered by the Indian Premier League, which had a 208% increase, and the UEFA Champions League, which was up by 112%. Remarkably, Formula 1 managed this despite hosting the fewest events on the top 5, with 2022 conversations coming from just 22 race weekends, compared to 285 NFL matches, including the Super Bowl, which year on year is one of the most talked about sporting events in the world. The only year that growth slowed was in 2018, and the biggest growth was in 2021, where they gained around 14 million new cross-channel followers. This makes them the fastest growing social channels of any sport in that time period. For 2023 so far, Formula 1 management says growth for its official channels is around 8 times higher than the near 500,000 figure mentioned by Buzz Radar for January to May. In the second quarter of the season, Formula 1's channels ranked second globally, behind In the second quarter of the season, Formula 1's channels ranked second globally, behind La Liga, for followers growth rate among all major sports. Formula 1 management also states that active engagements such as likes, comments, and shares are up 4% so far this year compared to 2022, and are on course to surpass 1.5 billion by the end of the season. It's interesting to see how the fact that a decline in on-track racing does, of course, relate to a decline in social media attention for the sport, and we certainly hope to see maybe that's getting improved next year, with hopefully some cars just hitting the ground running a little bit better, with hopefully getting much better development for next season. We want to see closer racing with the Red Bulls. We don't want to see them running away again. Hopefully they do kind of just sort everything out, and we do get some really, really close racing this year. I mean, the only consistent team that we've seen this year is Red Bull, and that's what we need to see from the other teams. We need to see consistency at all tracks, which is what they've really been struggling with, is to get that fundamentals of those cars to be able to perform at every racetrack that they go to this year. I see we have quite a lot of comments here now in the comment section. As TC says, as long as they haven't broken any Formula 1 financial rules, they probably know what they are doing with their money. That is talking about the Aston Martin Formula 1 team, as well as Orville Clisby saying Checo needs to pull his weight. Senna and Prost's era weren't half bad. I think it would be great if we can get an inter-team battle with Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. That would be phenomenal. I think the team just needs to develop the car a little bit more in the way of Sergio Perez, and then maybe it may suit him a little bit more and we could get some closer racing. But yeah, that has been it for me here today. I went a little bit over my time, but I'm sure all of you don't mind and have continue to stick around with me. And I thank you very much for staying around with me on this article. Please do be sure to go and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Like the video, as well as do be sure to go and check out all of our social media platforms. We've got a Forever Motorsports Instagram page, Forever Motorsports TikTok as well, and then I've got my own personal Twitter page, which I post up a lot of the Formula 1 memes, a lot of Formula 1 news as well, and driver market news, as well as I post a lot of short content on there as well. So please do be sure to go and check out all of those. But once again, thank you very much for joining me here today. I've been Reece here on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.